Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to that Flavor in Your Year podcast, man. Season 2, episode 4. Today we got a Miami legend in the building. We got this is history right here. I'm very happy to do this podcast because we get to it's like an autobiography podcast, right?
It is.
So we get to capture history, where the history is taking and where the future's going.
Absolutely.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome, Pilin.
Thank you, Danny. Appreciate you having me here and being part of your podcast.
Appreciate it, man. And this is a motivational podcast. And we like to motivate through people telling their stories, telling how a lot of people see the results of things, but they don't know the journey, the process that it takes. A lot of people just see the aftermath of things. They see the success, but they don't see the hard work, dedication, the things that go into practices, long hours, dealing with family issues with a lot of these kids that you've dealt with. People don't see those things. The sacrifices that people make, right? A lot of people want to get to a level of coaching or a level of success in this industry or this world, but they don't know the sacrifice, not just sacrifice with yourself, but with your family, right? Things like that. So I think it's important that we hear your story, we hear this journey from beginning to where it's at now. We know you got Miami Prep, ABF, all those things working currently. So where I think we should start, and I think it's also a big part of the history here, is how you fell in love with basketball, how the passion started. We know you played for Shaky, Miami High, another legend. Rest in peace. Gone too soon.
100%. We missed him. We miss him a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, I fell in love with basketball when I was 14 years old. My sophomore year, I played at Miami High for Bob Kaufman, which is 1974, 75. And it was Shaky's first year ever coaching.
Right.
He was an assistant to Coach Kaufman, and we had a great JV, and we went to the GMAC and won that. And then from there, I moved on to LaSalle. I went to LaSalle High School, which is a private school, and while at LaSalle, a lot of great things happened there. I was fortunate to be an all-city player, an all-district player, an all-conference player.
At that time, there weren't many Catholic schools, were there?
No, not at all. It was actually us. The top 4 teams back then, Danny, was us, Belen school named Dearborn, which they're not around anymore, and Loyola.
Okay, Loyola I've heard of.
Yeah, Loyola. Yeah. So those were the top 4 teams. And what are we talking about? We're talking about 77 and 78. I don't know how old you were there at that age.
I wasn't born yet.
You weren't born yet.
87.
That's how far we go back. But, yeah, I was fortunate enough to make a lot of honors there, all city. All conference. I was actually the first Cuban American with Cesar Odio. Now, Cesar was with Columbus, which they were 4A school and we were 2A school, to be the first Cuban Americans to be voted as an all-state player for the entire state of Florida. And
I'm going to assume that at that time 4A was the highest class.
4A was the highest. That is correct. 4A was the highest. It was either 4A, 3A, 2A, or 1A. We were 2A and they were 4A. And back then, LaSalle didn't have a gym, so all of our home games were played at Columbus. Okay. And so we used to play Columbus all the time. And then, of course, Monsignor Pace, which is another private school, they were really good. And my 2 years at LaSalle, they were very good. They, like I said, pretty much won all the honors. I'm actually in the ballot of being voted into the LaSalle Hall of Fame for early next year. We'll see how that goes. So, just loved the sports, played basketball. And then, of course, back then, they didn't have anything. They didn't have FIU. There wasn't any University of Miami. So if you were a kid back then and you were pretty good, you either, left the state or you really had 2 options or 3 options. You had to either play at Miami-Dade South or Miami-Dade North or Biscayne College. Okay. So I went on and I played at Miami-Dade South for a year, broke my ankle, and then after that I didn't do anything else with the basketball. And I wish we would have had more schools like FIU and UM at that time, and because I thought that maybe I could have played for one of those schools. So basically after basketball, went into business, and then after business in 1999, I had made a promise to my son Danny, which is with us now. He's the vice president of Miami Prep, to basically, spend some time with him. And I took the reins as a coach at Miami Christian 99-2000. And in 99-2000, we won our first state championship. Right. We won our first state championship with a group of Dominican kids and some local kids as well. We had a kid back then by the name of Carlos Morban, and also Johan and Kelly and those guys, and also Junior Matias. So So Carlos, we won our first state championship there. Carlos moved on to play at FIU. Junior Matias moved on to play at FIU as well. Johan went on to Central Florida, so we had some kids who went on to college, and we were very proud of that. And so that was our first state championship. And then our second state championship was 2002, 2003, which I feel that has to be one of the best teams of all time down here in basketball. We went 38-2, and a lot of schools, what they do, Danny, is they count the preseason games. If we were to count the preseason games, we finished 40-2. And that was a great team. We had 5 Division I players there, led by J.J. Barea. We had J.J. and of course J.J. went on to play at Northeastern. He was just inducted to the Hall of Fame last week. We had another kid by the name of Carlos Rivera that went off to play at Hofstra. He's won 8 to 9, if I'm not mistaken, either 8 or 9 championships at overseas. So he's turned out to be a great pro. We had another kid that went to Arizona by the name of Jesus Verdejo that later transferred to South Florida and had a great career there. We had another kid by the name of Ivan Lopez that went to play for John Calipari at Memphis. And we had Sammy Hernandez that actually played for Jim Larinaga when they were at George Mason, and they made it to the Final Four. So, that was a great team. We finished 6th in the USA Today poll, and that was great. And a lot of these kids moved on to college, which is what it's all about, right? And then so that was a very successful year. And then during that time, we were a Nike school, so we actually took trips to Hawaii. We took trips to California to play for a national championship, and so that was exciting. And then after that, I went ahead and took the Nike contract, which was we were the first Nike. People don't know this or haven't maybe heard, but we were the first school in Florida to take a Nike contract.
I do believe I remember this.
Yeah, back in 2003.
I think Miami High was the second.
Miami High came after, so we took the Nike contract. And I started actually the Miami Tropics during that time. And so I actually had walked away from high school at that time, and which, of course, I came back later, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I took it, started the Miami Tropics, and that went well, really. Went well. We started to run a travel team for Nike.
So I wanted to get into that because we jumped a lot from where I wanted to start. So,
okay.
Did the Tropics start before Miami Christian?
No.
It started during that era, right?
During the era, that's correct.
So you never had an idea, like when you say you wanted, you became coaching because you wanted to spend more time with your son and a way to connect. And is that part of the whole travel situation too?
No, my thing was to hang it up after Danny hung it up, and Danny won 2 state championships and played alongside Beret. And I said, hey, Danny, once you graduate, I'm walking away. Yeah. And we became so successful. And then
you said that a second time too, by the way.
I did.
We're gonna get into that one later, but
that's a good point. That's a good point, Danny. So basically, I went ahead and I said, okay, well, let's starting to like this thing. We went to state championships. Kids, will continue want to come down here to Miami and play basketball. So, I was in the mix with George Raveling, the head of Nike, and he wanted us to become a Nike school, because remember, we were Nike school in high school.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, if you're not doing a high school, let's go ahead and get you the Nike in the travel circuit.
And at that time, no EYBL.
No EYBL.
That didn't exist yet. That was still in the...
Great point. It was the Nike All-American Camp in Indianapolis. So if you were good enough, you went to the Nike All-American Camp in Indianapolis. And then back then, you had to play in all these tournaments, and if you were selected, you went to the number 1 tournament in the country, which was the Peach Jam.
Yeah.
And that was exciting, because now you play in front of 300 college coaches. So we were very fortunate that from 2003, Danny, to 2009 or 10, we made it to the Peach Jam every single year. We had to play in the circuit. I remember back then you had to play in the Boo Williams tournament in Virginia. Then you had to play in Jimmy Hart's tournament and the Rumble in the Bronx in New York. And you had some other tournaments. And then based on your record, they either selected you or not.
Right.
So there was 36 teams back then, but they only selected 24. So, we really started something really nice, because we were able during that time is basically travel with a lot of these kids. And that's when we really took off.
Yeah.
Talent-wise. We had that great team at Miami Christian, but then during that time, we were sending 10, 12 kids to Division I basketball every year. As a matter of fact, one of the years, I'll never forget this, we're playing We're playing DC Blue Devils, which had Kevin Durant, had Isaiah Thomas, and some other people. And we had a kid by the name of Denny Clemente. And I ran into it the other day.
If you're from Miami, you know who that is.
You know who that is, absolutely. Of course, we had Denny, we had David Huertas, and we had Josue Soto. So think about it. Denny goes to Miami, Josue Soto goes to Florida State, and David Huertas goes to Florida. So you're talking SEC and ACC. But if you look at the leading scorers one year, you had Denny number 1. From number 2 to number 17, all the kids have either played in the NBA or still in the NBA.
Right.
So that was just very successful because we were getting kids and playing at the national level, and basically they were moving on to college.
Right.
And to us, that's what really was all about. I mean, we wanted to win, but we would go to these tournaments and they had a whole bunch of college coaches that were there and just getting these kids into college. So that was very exciting.
And there's two things that I want to point out about that era that I think are to look back. One, at that time, that was a golden era of private school basketball.
100%.
Right? Like private schools are still up now, but that low level, that 2A, like because at that time, you had Northwest Christian.
Great point.
Even La Progresiva had a team that had some players. You had Brito. Those little schools were like pace was really good. But at that time, the real dominant schools were those 2A, Northwest Christian, Miami Christian schools that no longer, like, they're dying. It's a dying breed now.
I tell you what, I'll share this with you, Danny. Back then, there were 4 private schools that were the very best down here. It was Miami Christian.
Right.
It was Northwest Christian. That was coached by Tony Pujo.
That had a good run.
College, yeah.
Yep.
Champagnat.
That's right.
Coached by Chachi Rodriguez.
Yeah, right.
Champagnat had
that team won a state championship too.
Won a state championship. And then there was Berkshire. Coached by Rolly de la Barrera. Berkshire was loaded. So the 1 year, think about this for a second. You brought up an excellent point.
Even Hareb, by the way,
and
had a little small window there.
Had a little small window there. But think about this for a second. So if you throw Miami Christian, if you throw Champagnat, and if you throw Berkshire and Northwest Christian, there was at least 40 kids in those 4 schools that went on to play Division I basketball.
Yeah.
That was unheard of. I mean,
yeah.
we were playing Miami High and beating Miami High by 25-30. They were doing the same thing with other schools. And so at some point, we were all stuck in 1A. So they said, okay, well, Berkshire closed, so it was us, Champagnat, and Northwest Christian. So they kind of moved us around. There was 1 year when we won a state championship and Champagnat won a state championship because now we were 1A and they were 2A.
Yeah.
So we were able to go to state. We still played against each other.
Was that the 99, 2000?
No, that was 99. No,
that was Chachi won it in 99, right?
Yeah. That was 90. Yeah, it was 99, 2000, and then it happened again 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
So, those are 4 powerhouses. I mean, people will come to our gym and just pack the place because they knew that the talent was there.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. It was exciting because, those days you're not going to see them now.
Right.
They're not, kids are very talented, but back in those days the talent was at the private school level.
Yeah. I know about the tournament in Hawaii. Did you guys win that one or?
Well, that's another.
By doing that, I know something interesting happened.
Yeah, that's another great story. So Nike comes to us. We were a Nike school and says, "Hey, here's a budget for you around $75,000."
Right.
He says, "We want to fly you to Ailani, Hawaii. We want you to play the number 1 team in the country."
Okay.
So we're okay. Let's go. And that was the year, not Berea's year. That was the year that we had Guillermo Diaz that played at Miami and Raul Horta. And Carlos Barrocales.
Yep.
And that was a pretty Jesus Verdejo was his senior year. That was a pretty solid year. So we go to Hawaii, and we were ranked, going into that tournament, we were ranked 2nd in the USA Today poll.
Right.
Okay.
Which second, I think that there's a banner of that at Miami Christian. I think, right?
Yeah. So we were ranked 2nd in the USA Today poll. So I get a call from Nike, and they said, "Coach, listen, the number 1 team in the country just lost." He says, if you're able to take business, if you're able to take care of business, today we're going to put you as the number 1 team in the country. Now, think about that. It's never been done.
Now, the number 1 team lost in that same tournament?
And no, they lost somewhere else.
Okay, so this is before, but they're also going to this tournament.
No, they were in another tournament.
Oh, okay.
They were in another tournament. So they had just lost in another tournament. in the States. Now, we were in Hawaii.
Right.
And this team was somewhere in the States. So they had lost earlier because of change of hours in Hawaii. And I got a call, and they said, look, just want to let you know, like, you're talking about putting pressure on me, right? If they lose, they lost. So if you win, you're the number one team in the country. Now, think about it. Miami got as high as number 2. We got as high as number 2. But no team in the state of Florida has never been the number one team in the country. So
at least not a regular high school team.
A regular high school team, right?
We're talking about Montverde, but that's not regular.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that Montverde at the time.
And I say that to say the feat of that, right? Because that's not an easy task in itself.
It's never been done.
Like a school like Montverde can easily achieve that because of the resources and where they are.
Came in later.
Yeah,
right?
but doing it at a 2A school in Miami, is a whole,
it's unheard of. It's unheard of. So Danny,
it's bigger than what it sounds. Like, I don't think people can grasp that because they have to see Miami Christian, where it's located, how it is, to really understand the grasp.
Well, you were part of
that.
the coaching staff there, so you know exactly how Miami Christian is. So yeah, the little 2A school in Sweetwater.
Yeah, exactly.
With what, maybe 300, 350 kids at most.
With not the best resources, not the highest fashion gym.
No, not the high fashion gym.
That's why I'm saying it's for the people out there that are listening to this that maybe can't imagine how big that of a feat that was.
It was, and it was special, but it was ours, and we had a lot of great people like yourself and other people that went through the program that helped us get there. And so anyway, so we're playing in this game, okay, and it's called the shot that shocks Hawaii.
Okay,
and here's what I mean. So we're playing a team that has Aaron Brooks. Now, Aaron Brooks playing the NBA for 12, 13 years, right?
Another long career.
Right, so he's going against Guillermo, and they were going back at it, and, Guillermo, I think, finished with 39. Guillermo had signed with Miami.
Yep.
And Aaron Brooks had like 38 or whatever. So, regulation time, okay, we go up 3. Regulation time, place was packed. They had just done the slam dunk contest, and Guillermo had won it. Standing room only in this gym. There was people outside climbing to see the games from the windows outside, the whole thing. Packed. And so we go up 3, and they call a timeout. And now, remember, in high school, you don't take the ball out of bounds at half court. You got to take it from the other side. From the end line. From the baseline. So there was about 6 seconds left in the clock. So Aaron Brooks pushes the ball.
He was fast, too.
He was fast.
Yeah.
Gives it to a kid. The kid shot the ball. Danny, it hits the back of the rim. When it hits the back of the rim and it jumps all the way to the front court, we're looking at the clock. We, the team, myself, all start running to the court to celebrate. This guy hustles to the ball, grabs the ball. True story. Again, the shocks Hawaii. It's on the internet. The kid grabbed the ball. Now, with his back, I'm here. The basket's behind me. Gets the ball, goes like this. Boom. Not looking.
Oh, my God.
The ball hit.
I don't know how when I was doing my research, I didn't see this.
I know. The ball hits the back of the backboard and goes in.
Oh, my God.
Now, we're in half court.
Yeah, shocked.
Ready to celebrate.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about that shot was about 35, 40 feet out. And it goes in.
With a split second left. Right?
And I said, I didn't want to say this to the kid, but I was saying to myself, we're not winning this game. We're not winning this game. So we went into overtime and we lost.
Wow.
So we dropped a little bit in the poll to number 4, number 5, but we had that great opportunity to become the number 1 team in the country during that time in Island in Hawaii.